Hello, beautiful souls. I am Valeria Maritza at Healing Through You. I am an infinite being of light, and so are you. Intuition. What is intuition? How can we use this? Have we been using it all along? What is this thing, intuition? And how can it change our lives when we recognize what it is and we follow in the guidance that we are receiving? Today's guest is really someone who has been living this following your intuition um, for several years and has seen a dramatic change in the way that her life has expanded and going on to the next level and the next step, making it better and better each way. And who doesn't want to have a path where it continuously gets better and better, right? So I am so excited to bring Lindsay to this podcast so you can see what she is doing. You can hear her story. You can perhaps get a little bit of hints, or you can see yourself a little bit in her, and you can start putting together those messages that you may have been receiving to give them validity, because that is where it starts when you give it validity, and then you begin to actually listen. Most of us get the intuition hits all the time, and we already know that when we do follow on the guidance that we're receiving, that things turn out so much better than for the times that we did not listen, right? So think back of a time where that has happened, when you did not listen and how things did not go as well. And then when you did listen, and how did things turn out for you? All right. So I am so excited to bring her to you. Remember to like, to follow, to subscribe to this channel, to share with anybody that you feel this would be helpful. And yeah, I love you so much, and I'll see you soon. Hello, Lindsay. So glad to
Hello.
have you here.
I'm excited for this conversation. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, you're welcome. I love your story when we chatted a little bit earlier, because I find that so many people are, that's where we are at. We are receiving intuition hits or knowings or things, and we don't give it any attention, and we just think it's, nothing, or just part of nothingness, or it's not special. Um, but this is what you started noticing and paying attention to, and this is what has brought you to where you are now. So why
Yes.
don't we start? Why don't you start telling us a little bit about how your life was before you took notice of what was happening?
Yeah, and I think for me, like we all have intuition going like our whole lives, and it's just how much we're paying attention to it. And for for many of us, I think we're taught to value logic and reason over that like intuitive hit, that gut pull, that feeling. So, and it's really hard in our when we're really, really busy to ground and center and tap into our intuition. So, I think the intuition has always been there for me, but the amount I've listened to it has varied across my life. Now it like I pretty much live by intuition. Before, I would take little pieces or I would talk myself out of what was being told to me. And I can even, what's popping into my head um, was like my experience having a miscarriage, which is not somewhere I normally go in conversation. But I had a miscarriage many years ago between my kids. And um, I basically, what happened as a result of that is I really dismissed my intuition after that. I felt like my intuition led me astray. Um, I felt like the universe was beating me when I was already down, and I went into a depression, and I like really was like F you to my intuition, because I felt like I couldn't trust it, that it basically like destroyed me. And why would it ever want to do that? And it took me a long time to rebuild it back and trust it again. Um, and I can now look back on that experience and understand how my intuition led me through all of that and then pulled me out of a depression just by, you know, giving me the nudge to go on crash my parents' vacation, giving me the nudge to grab a children's book on my way out the door, to read that was all about gratitude and law of attraction. And like, so I can look back at the pieces now and understand that my intuition never disappeared and I never actually turned my back on it, but it was just like, I felt like I turned my back on it in a big way, but I can see how the little pulls were there the whole time. And I can tell you that, from my experience listening to my intuition versus not listening to my intuition, when I listen to it, things magically work out. Things happen that I really do believe it's pulling us in our highest and best interest. And whether that's towards something great or to surface something that we need to heal, it's all good. And in the cases where I haven't followed my intuition, where I've let sort of logic and reason take over, things don't go as smoothly. And I also do believe, though, that that was the perfect experience because those are valuable lessons to reflect on of like, oh, I didn't actually listen to that nudge inside of me. I trusted somebody else's opinion over my own. Those are all, I think, just part of the learning that's part of the like learning to trust your intuition. And I think all of those experiences, whether you follow or not, are just part of like how we live life as humans on this planet.
Yeah, amazing. Thank you for sharing that part of your story, which I feel is really, really important because, I mean, how many times have we heard someone going through some tragedy, personal tragedy, and the first thing that's said, not talking about intuition, but the first thing is like, there is no God, right? And the first thing
Yes.
is like, turn back from whatever religion you're growing from and like just turn your back on it. It doesn't exist because why would it happen? So listening to your intuition, the way that you linked that together, like, okay, I was mad at my intuition. Why would it bring me here? Right. And then being able to later see how it actually all worked out for you.
Yeah, and there's bigger pieces to that story in terms of the lessons I learned, but in terms of intuition, it's yeah, I really felt like my intuition led me astray, God led me astray, the universe led me astray, and I can now look back and see how the threads were there all along. I was being guided, and even when I was mad and angry, I was still being guided, and I was still listening to aspects of that, just like, grabbing that book, for example.
So tell me a little bit about how you got to the point of being able to look back and see that, oh, actually, it was still helping me even throughout this because so many people I feel get stuck in that place of anger and resentment and they don't move on, so they don't get to the part that you did of being able to look back and see the gifts in the tragedy or in the loss. Not to say that having a miscarriage is it's not, it's like a good thing. Obviously it's very
Yeah.
painful, but how you are able to turn that around for yourself.
Yeah, I think first, like in the moment or as I was going through the hard parts of that, I had a desire to change. I had a daughter, a toddler I was taking care of, and I was in a depression where I didn't want to get out of bed. And I knew that like her presence forced me to need to change. And then over the years, I really just started playing with my intuition. It's just been like, I'll take this road instead of this road, or I'll try this aisle for parking. Or I used to even walk around the block with my daughter and I used to tune into her when I was trying to put her to sleep. I'm like, okay, how many blocks is this going to take? And I'd feel into it and I'd play with it. Like none of those have any consequence in, the real world. But I started to play with my intuition. And then as I played with it, I got more trusting in it. And I started to experiment with I guess, bigger things. I wasn't consciously doing it. I just feel like I was building a muscle. And as the muscle got stronger, I feel like I had less and less of a choice in a way to listen to it. Like I felt like now I just feel like I have to listen to it because I trust it. I trust that guidance so much. So now as I've built that muscle and I've understand that, I can look back and reflect at the harder aspects of my life. Um, and notice the beauty and the magic because I'm sitting in beauty and magic every day. And I can now look back in that lens and be like, okay, I can see those threads through the miscarriage, through the divorce, through all of the stuff. And I think it's a practice and it's a muscle and a skill that we build over time.
Yeah, amazing. That feels so easy, right? I mean, no matter
It
how, it's
does.
just, yeah. And I love that because everything really is supposed to be easy. We make it so hard, so difficult. I want to touch upon what you said, like none of this intuition thing goes along with like the mind, right? Like what makes sense. It just doesn't make sense.
Yes.
So did you share with anyone like I'm following this or I'm doing that because it's my intuition, versus like, no, I'm going to do that because that's what sounds like it's the right thing to do? And then how did that go if you did that?
So, I mean, I've done that many times. Like my life right now, um, it looks from the outside looking in. I don't know if it looks like a mess, but like I like go to Bali based on my intuition and I am from Canada. Like I've made these really big moves and that was like I was being pulled to go to Bali after I separated from my husband, and it was the intuitive pull was so strong. It was like when I pictured a map, that was the place that glowed. And I'm like, okay, I know nothing about this country. And it was just like, go there, meet people to help you figure out your life. And I'm like, you can't even plan a trip like that. Like, and I tried to find other places because I didn't want to go that far. That was like a $2,000 plane ticket. Um, and I'm like, okay, and no matter what, like I tried looking at other countries. None of them had that same glow to them if I'm like picturing that map. And I was like, okay, I guess I'm going to Bali. And so I did that the first time. And then within a few months of getting back, I was being pulled back to take my kids back to Bali for 6 months. And I'm like, okay, how's this going to work in a co-parenting situation? I have zero desire to take them away from their dad. Their grandparents are kind of upset with me that I want to take them so far away for so long. And I can explain none of it in terms of logic and reason. Like, there's no reason that I couldn't go to like Costa Rica or Mexico and do the same thing that's closer, cheaper plane tickets, similar time zone, but it's Bali. It's Bali. And so you have to be like, this is again, I think where it comes back to like, I trust my intuition. And I also have to be comfortable with people thinking I'm crazy and not being able to explain things. Even my mother yesterday, I was talking about like going back to Bali for another 6 months, and she's getting angry with me. Why don't you choose Mexico? Why don't you like it's so far away? You're taking my grandkids. Like, what are you doing? And I'm like, Mom, there's no logic to this. I understand. I wish it was Mexico. I wish it was Costa Rica. I wish it was somewhere closer, but it's not. And I'm just trusting that we're meant to be on that side of the world as long as we're meant to be on that side of the world. And yeah, so it's really like trusting yourself, trusting that the universe and you are co-creating and and being okay with judgment, letting go of the judgment you'll get from others and even yourself. There's been times where I've judged myself very harshly because before we went to Bali for 6 months with the kids, my intuition told me to go for 2 months by myself to figure things out. And I really didn't want to leave my kids. And that was like, it was an argument in my head and in my intuition and with God for probably a solid month of like, I don't want to do that. And it's just like, it'll make it easier when you go in January. And I'm like, but everything you want, like everything I'm going there to do, I could do in January with the kids. Like I didn't understand. So that was like the conversation I was having with myself, with the universe in July. I didn't understand till January why I had to do that 2-month trip by myself. And like I said, I could have done it. We would have just had, a rougher transition. We would have just been a little bit more clunky. But the transition for my kids, the ease of which we settled into our life in Bali was just pretty magical. So I could look back in January, 6 months earlier, when I was having that discussion, like I could see why. And sometimes there's that delay. And that's the tricky part. Sometimes there's that delay and like you're like, I've been pulled this way. I don't understand why yet.
Love that. Yeah. So it's so interesting, right? Because like, your family who's not following their intuitive hits and they're trying to ask you for questions and answers, and you don't have anything that's logical.
I have no answers.
Yeah. But I love that you feel like your energy feels just so self-assured and like, I'm doing the right thing. This is the right thing for me and my family, your immediate family. And yeah, like even though your parents, who obviously are your family as well, they're not liking this, but it's all about you. This is you, your story, your journey, what feels good for you.
Yeah, and that's been actually a big one as a mother to say, I want to do this. I want to prioritize this. And trusting that A, my kids are going to be okay. And B, that they signed up to do this life with me and they are also co-creators in this reality. And even though it feels like I am in charge because I am their mother and I am getting the intuitive pulls, I feel very strongly that my kids are also co-creating this reality with me and our higher beings are all sitting up there going, this is going to be fun, or this might be hard for a little bit, but we see the bigger picture. So it's having that faith that there is, even though I'm prioritizing myself based on my intuition, I am also walking deeply in faith that is also serving my kids in their highest and best interest as well.
I love that. What was I going to say? Something was coming through when you were talking about your kids and oh, I know. What an amazing example to lead by example and show your kids what it's like to put yourself first and to and without doing that and hurting others. I mean, you could say, well, my the grandparents are upset and they're hurt, but they also do have a choice to come with you, right? And they're not choosing that. All financial things put aside, right? Like because you didn't know how to do it either, but it just you listen, you follow the intuition, and everything worked out for you. Like how magical is that?
Yeah, and I really want to cultivate that in my kids. I mean, kids are already intuitive beings, but I can see that even just like being in the school system, it's like hammered out of them not to tune into their bodies, not to listen, to follow the rules. I can see that and I'm like I need to be the example for my kids. I need to show them that there is a different way that we can prioritize what we are feeling in our bodies, in our hearts, in our souls over what other people expect. That's a massive one that I'm really like conscious of trying to I guess balance out because our society there's so much pressure to follow the rules, do what you're told, do what's expected, stay on this one path. And there's so many other ways of doing life. And I want my kids to know that they can literally be, do, and have anything they want in this world. And their life is like a playground for them to just create a beautiful life with.
Amazing. Yeah, you're breaking the mold. You're just literally breaking the mold of what society has taught us all of like, this is what works, you know? 20 years of schooling, get
Right.
rid of
Yeah.
your imagination and your creativity, and then get a
Yeah.
job and work all day long and then repeat the next day, right? Like that's no longer working. I mean, it worked for a long time, but the way that we're living now, the way that we're all ascending, and especially our children, I see it on my child too, they are so awake.
Yeah, and it's beautiful. And I followed the rules. I was a good student. I did all of like I had the successful career. I went to university. I like made the six-figure income. I didn't question it until I got to about age 30 and I was like, okay, this cannot be my life. And then I had kids and I was like, this can really not be my life because it was just such a sprint. And I'm like, how do I get out of this? But you get so trapped up in the good income, you get so trapped up in like the expectations. Like it was weird when I was quitting my job and people are asking, like, oh, they just assume that you're going to another position, you got some promotion, you got whatever. And I'm like, nope, I'm gonna go hang out with my kids. Now, at the time, I was doing my parenting business and teaching parenting, but it was such like a weird thing for people to grasp that I was just doing like not a 180, but just like pulling myself out of quote unquote stability. I think
Matrix.
that's the matrix.
Pulling
Yes.
yourself out of the matrix. Yeah. Oh my gosh. I love that. Okay. So, ah, this is the other thing that came out earlier, and I wanted to touch bases on it because you said you started to play with intuition. Like, how many blocks is it going to take for my child to fall asleep? And that is such key because as
Yes.
children, that's all we do is play and imagine and create. And then, just like you mentioned, as we get into the school system and all of those, boxes that we're expected to do, that's like kicked out of us and we forget how to do it. But
Mhm.
that's the key. The key is playing, no expectations, no attachments, creation. And that's where the magic happens. And you're living proof that is happening.
Yeah, and play is something that, when I think about playing with my kids, I struggled for so long to play with my kids. Even still, sometimes I do. And with like play is really the key because it takes all the pressure off. It taps into your creativity. It just magic unfolds when you just play with no attachment to outcome. I still have to remind myself of that. Like, even currently, as I am back in Canada, kids back in school, like, it's so easy for me to just get into like work, do like, and thinking. And it's harder for me to have fun and play here than it is in Bali, which is a pattern that I've noticed. And I need to really be intentional learning how to play here in Canada because that is the key to your happiness. That is the key to earning income. That is the key to connecting with other people, including your kids and your family. Like it's just the key to so much, but it is hard to remember sometimes. So I'll
What do
just
you,
I'll just leave that out there because it's not like this is like it's still a practice for me to do.
yeah, for sure. Do you feel it's because maybe where you are in Canada with the school and all of the must do things, that the society, like the collective energy, is like seeping within you or like infringing upon your freedom of wanting to play or be, more free or not follow the rules? You feel maybe that like that's the reason that while you're here, it's harder?
I think that's definitely part of the reason the energy is different, the way people think is different, the way people do life is different. And I also believe that I don't have to be sort of victim to that I can do life differently here. And right now I'm here because my kid's dad is here. And like I know I am not meant to be here. I'll say long term. I feel like my intuition is like, you need to stay put for 4 months. And I'm like, like in this place. I'm like, okay, but I feel that's related to my kids and needing to be there for my kids this fall for whatever reason. Um, and I trust that I am also not meant to suffer in this place. I'm not meant to feel suffocated. And I have the power within me to have fun and create and even attract people into my life that I can have fun with during the day, during school hours, or whatever it is. So I am navigating this right now. I don't have all solutions, but I do feel that this is not the right place for me, and the energy here is very different. And I also refuse to believe that I'm a victim to it, and I need to incorporate more play to figure things out and how to like live a full life here because I do believe it's possible to do that anywhere.
Love it. And you are, again, leading by example in this place where, most people around you are not able to understand how it is to live by following your intuition. So tell me a little bit about Bali. So as you get to Bali, place that you didn't know anything about, how is the energy different there? How did it welcome you?
Bali is a really magical place, and so many people feel this when they go there. There's something truly beautiful about the energy. You can tap into your intuition is stronger. You can manifest things really quickly. So there's the Balinese people that are rooted in Balinese Hinduism and very traditional. And you see offerings everywhere. You see prayer everywhere daily. And there's something really beautiful and magical about seeing that and being surrounded by people intentionally connecting to the gods and that divine essence on a daily basis. And then there's the expat community that I am normal over there I am normal for giving up my stable job here. I am normal for traveling. I am normal for not having all of the pieces figured out. It attracts people who want to figure out their lives. It attracts people who are more spiritual and tapped in. Um, it, it's like pretty much all the expats, not all of them, but most of them are entrepreneurs. So it's a very different way of thinking. They're just like when problems presented in front of them, it's like, how can I figure this out? Like it's not going to stop me. I'm going to trust and surrender. Like it's just like the conversation that we're having today would be like a normal like dinner conversation with people there. Like it's a very different energy, the island itself, and then it attracts people that are living life off script. Um, so it's
Mhm.
like I go there and I feel so at home because I'm literally just surrounded by other people like me who don't think I'm crazy, who are just like, okay, yeah, of course you're trusting your intuition.
Yeah,
Like,
you
of
found your
course.
tribe. Amazing. Yeah, I had a friend who just traveled, I think up to Iceland, and she was also finding similarities in that like she was accepted or like all the things that felt judgmental where she lives were non-existent there. And she was like, wow, like that's the power of really being able to travel and go places and actually immerse yourself in the cultures because you get to learn so much more that you cannot learn through books.
No, and just I probably never would have even been able to articulate like why I felt out of place here in Canada. And then I have the contrast now of going to Bali, and I'm like, I just see like how differently people are living in this world. And it's really cool to see that contrast because here it feels like, oh, if I'm, living life off script, if I'm trusting my intuition, if I'm like sort of exiting the matrix and blowing everything up, um, that's sort of frowned upon. That's like you're kind of people are questioning your sanity and all that. And then like to hear that that's normal and to like have other people around you doing the same, like that contrast and you get contrast everywhere you travel. Like that contrast is becomes that beautiful playground of showing you, oh my goodness, there's other possibilities that I hadn't even considered before.
Yeah, amazing. I love that. It's such a great. I just watched this movie. It's an old movie where the daughter finishes school, law school. She's a lawyer, and she goes to Bali for her vacation, falls in love with the culture with a boy, and then the parents are like traveling back, trying to like. It was a really funny movie. Um,
Nice.
but the whole thing was like she meets this guy who is doing a seaweed farm, and he explains to her how it's not work, that he's in communion with the water, that the water gives him all that he needs, and as long as you're not abusing it, or cutting too much of the seaweed, that it always provides. And it was like poof, this like for her, or like character in the movie,
Yeah.
like what like that, I've never heard of that before. And it feels like it. I mean, no coincidence that I just clicked on that and watched this right before I got
Amazing.
your interview, right? Like the same thing, right? Like it's just like that confirmation so that people can see the difference that it's available to us.
Yeah, and I think that's a beautiful like metaphor for life. Like if you're in communion with the divine and what life is showing you, then it will always provide for you. It will never leave you. It will never leave you stranded. That's beautiful.
Yeah. It's a movie with Julia Roberts and George Clooney. I
Okay.
forgot the
I
name
feel
of
like
it.
I've seen it. Yeah.
Yeah, I think I had seen it before too, but I just had to watch it again. And then now I'm understanding why. Why did I have to watch this now again?
Amazing.
Right? Because I never watch things twice. Um, yeah, because it's what we're taught in the corporate world is that we must build a nest, right? This nest of
Yes.
funds, money, healthcare, all those things, so that we can be safe and we can have enough.
Yes.
And so many people are doing just that, building a nest and not actually living. And they're in
Yes.
this scarcity of like I had a neighbor here, an elderly gentleman. He just moved out of the house for, to downsize. And he said, as soon as I sell my house, I'm going to buy myself an iPhone. He has like one of the little flip phones that are like really old. And I'm going to buy myself a new car. He still has it. And he's like, it's too expensive. I'm like, okay, he's single, he has no kids, has all this nest, he's old,
Yeah.
I mean, older. And he's like, what? He's just holding on to it for the fear of letting go of the nest. And he's not allowing himself the
Live.
pleasures that he obviously wants, right? Because he was dreaming about it. He was telling us about it. Like, I'm going to buy that once I have the money. Now he has the money. He doesn't want to let go. And I believe like this is what we're taught in the corporate world, that you need to have that. Don't spend it.
Yeah, that's a massive one. Like the amount people are afraid to live, to
Yes.
um I guess invest in their dreams. I mean, this has been a really big one for me because when I separated from my husband, I was a stay-at-home mom, homeschooling mom. I had no income. I started traveling based on intuition. I started traveling on savings, and people have opinions about that, like how irresponsible. And I've been really reflecting on this a lot lately because to me, it was the only option. I'm like, I know what my life was like when I was working full time with kids and they were in school. I'm like, I didn't want that. I wanted to walk towards the life I wanted. I wanted to trust my intuition. I wanted to um, try. I wanted to try to create the beautiful life that I wanted for my kids. And taking that savings, and yes, it was my retirement savings, all the years I still have savings, but it was like to me, there is no greater investment than investing in the life that you want and the life that you want for your kids. Like, what better way to spend our money and to invest in ourselves and creating this really, really beautiful life because we don't know how much time we have. And I'm not against saving, but like we're meant to live life. The amount of people I talk to who are waiting for retirement or those few weeks of vacation a year or the weekends even. I'm like, "What are you doing?" Like life like you can be living life every single day and having this beautiful life. You can do that now. You don't have to wait. I was talking to someone who's like, "Oh, I have 11 years yet left. I have a good pension. I don't want to leave my job. I don't like it, but 11 years." And I'm like, 11 years? You're going to do this for 11 years? Like, no, take your savings, invest, like do something, like live your life now.
Oh
Just
my gosh.
go.
This reminds me when I was teaching in Nashville, because I was a teacher for 15 years. I knew I was not going to stay there. I knew I was not going to. It was just a temporary place. And, as a teacher, they give you like X amount of personal days. And I used them every year. I used all my sick days and all my personal days because I was like, what am I saving them for? Because everybody's saving them for retirement. Which, by the way, when you're a teacher and you save all of these days for retirement, you get paid a quarter of what they're worth. Okay, just putting that
Okay.
out there. Okay,
Interesting. Okay. Yep.
yes. So I used them all up, and every year I made sure that I used all my days because I didn't know how long I was going to be there. That the first year was going to be my first and only year, and then I stayed another one. I ended up staying 5 years, but I did this every year. And I remember that when I left, um, I didn't know how to read that paycheck thing, where it tells you all the numbers. And I went to an older teacher to ask her. I'm like, hey, like, where are my numbers? Like, what does it mean? And she looked at it and she started like laughing at me in disbelief that I hadn't saved anything. Because she had, I don't know, like some 500 days or something saved. And she couldn't believe it. And she was like, almost like making fun of me, like she has no idea what she's doing. And I'm here thinking, I know exactly what I'm doing. It's
So
like
you that has no idea.
this is done on purpose. So it's kind of like that. Like, like so many people do save for retirement, and like they're not seeing the value of what it's like to have a day off to that's paid and that it's yours. It's like, why would you save it for later to just get an X amount of money? Because really, we don't know when we're going to exit,
We
right?
don't, yeah, we don't know. And there was something I wanted to say. Um, oh, with, investing your money now and using, living your life now, I trust that like when I'm following my intuition and I'm being guided to live life this way, I also trust that I will be taken care of in retirement and that the ways I'm making money now or in the future, I like the way I see retirement now is, if I am doing work that I love that isn't all consuming and I'm making money, like why would I differentiate between like what I'm doing in my 40s versus what I'm doing in my 70s? If I'm truly lit up and living life to my fullest potential and following my intuition, then it doesn't matter to me whether I am working a couple hours in my 70s. Like if it doesn't feel like work, and it's providing for me, like, I just don't understand why I would differentiate. Like, I don't necessarily want a cutoff date of like, okay, this is when I'm just gonna sit on the couch and do nothing. I don't so many people get to retirement and they're like, what do I do now? I need something to do. Um, so my view on retirement is different. Yes, I am still wanting savings and stuff to fall back on and all of that, because it provides safety. Um, but I'm not necessarily looking at like retirement as like never earn money again. I think it just all gets to be this joy-filled life experience of earning money and having fun.
So important. I'm so glad that you brought that up. To like show people, hey, there's a new way. Like you're really truly living by example on like this new way of thinking and following your heart, really. Tell us more about how following your intuition and moving to Bali and taking your kids and going back and forth, and all of this has changed your life for the better?
Oh my goodness. I think it's just I feel like the more I do big things like this, the more I trust myself, more that I trust my intuition, more that I trust that I'm being taken care of. Um, I feel like every time I go back to Bali, I'm there for a different reason. And with my life with my kids, like I watch their confidence grow. I watch them be in a school that actually like aligns with my values and how I want to be raising kids and see kids as like fully capable. Maybe not fully capable, but like even something like they were trusted to go to the bathroom when they needed to go to the bathroom. They didn't have to like get a buddy and like a key and a like or whatever it is that like in the public school system here. Just like simple things like that. Um they were learning martial arts and cooking at school and they were outside all the time. Like it was just for them, um, seeing them, in many ways, it's like their nervous system settled and understanding that they're capable. And it's different in Canada than that. And I love that we get to play in the contrast of that. And for me, it's been healing. Every trip to Bali is just more and more deeply surrendering, deeply trusting, and healing. And some of that's like been intentional. And I feel like there was a lot of second guessing myself, a lot of doubt, a lot of fear, and there still is, but like I don't second guess myself anymore. And that's just been a recent shift in the last few months. Um, Even when I'm trusting and surrendering to intuition, I've always just had this like back and forth, like this like little rattle in my head of like, should I, shouldn't I, should I, shouldn't I, and this indecision. Um, but I feel like way more calm and centered and deeply rooted in faith compared to how I used to be. And I'm excited for that trajectory to continue.
Oh my gosh, you just said so many good things in that in that paragraph. The whole thing about seeing your child being able to go to the bathroom and being trusted. Like, I mean, that just says so much because really, like, when I actually, it's funny, when I graduated high school and I got my yearbook, um, it said the name of the high school, which I'm not gonna mention. It's a high school, and I remember crossing out the word high and writing jail because that's
Wow.
how I felt. I felt like this is like going to jail. Like there's like security guards everywhere. You can't walk the halls. You're being told what to do, when to do them. And I've never visited a jail, but that's how I felt. And like my son also, he was going to Catholic school. I just got about like this is not working because I saw his nervous system become shattered. Like when he started school, he was this bright, curious, amazing, like, yay, school. And then the last year, was like, I don't want to go. I'm like, this is happening. So, it's like that really contrast of like what the system is doing to our children, especially our awakened children, which they're all awakened now. If you have a child, they're awakened.
Yes.
And how it's like trying to destroy their spirit is what I feel, right?
Yeah, and it's all subtle. Like even yesterday, like walking my kids to school, my son was in a hoodie. He's like, "Oh, we can't have our hoods up at school." And then like they're, in different zones on the schoolyard. There's actually painted lines on the schoolyard where like the little kids play here, the like intermediate kids play here. Like there's just all these different rules, and I said, like, "We're making a list this year of all the rules," because it's laughable, but it's also, like, so stifling and confining, and what I've noticed, I noticed this in my daughter as soon as she started kindergarten. She's 10 now, but by Christmas time, it happened before, but, like, maybe, like, November, like, her nervous system, she doesn't know. She likes school, she has fun, she likes her teachers, she likes her friends, But the rules and the expectations are so suffocating that she becomes angrier, she acts out more, she has more meltdowns, and this was, like, I don't know what it'll be like now at age 10, but, like, when she was 4 and 5, like, this was, like, full on tantrums and, like, um, well, now she just becomes a little bit more resistant, and I'm curious to see what happens this fall, but you know, it's not obvious what is happening. It's not like my kids are saying, "Oh, these rules are so confining." They're just like, "Oh, it's the rules." Like my son was like last year, he was so excited to move next to his teacher's desk. And like he's like, "I'm sitting beside the teacher." And I'm like, why is that fun for you?" And he's like, "Oh, because I can blow my nose at lunch." And I was like, "What?" He's like, "Well, the Kleenex box is on the teacher's desk, and we're not allowed to get up at lunch because there's no adults in here. So I can't like I've just been like my nose just runs at lunch and I can't blow my nose." I'm like, "Oh my God." Like, so it's like the rules, but it's also like how the kids are interpreting the rules. And I'm like, "Buddy, your body is telling you something. Get up. Like, you have my full permission to get in trouble." And he's just like, they'll yell at me. And I'm like, and then what will happen? Like, I'm just trying so hard to get my kids to, like, break these stupid rules, to listen to their bodies over what's being told, but it's all just, like, so subtle, and it's scary for them to get in trouble, and I I don't know. It's a system that we're navigating, and I'm thankful and grateful that we've done homeschooling. I'm thankful and grateful that they've done school in Bali, and I'm hoping that gets to continue. My hope is that it does. Navigating co-parenting here, but I want them to have, if they're going to be in a system like that, I want them to have the contrast of what it's like to not be in that system. It's my little
Amazing.
rant.
Yeah, no, my son also had the thing with the bathroom. I
Yeah.
can only go to the bathroom one time a day if it's not recess. What?
Yeah, and when my daughter was in kindergarten, she was just too timid and shy to ask to go to the bathroom, so she'd pee her pants. And I'm like, "What can we do about this?"
Yeah, the system is just not working the way, it continues to be this way. So yeah, like, what's interesting? This is really funny because I keep getting the hint of like we need different schools. We need
Yes.
schools for the awakened kids, that are going to nourish their abilities, their intuition, their listening to their, but like I always teach my son um to listen to his belly when he's full, because
Yes.
both me and my husband grew up in during the times where there was a lot of poverty. And so we were taught you eat everything that's on your plate, right?
Yes.
Like that was the thing. You don't leave anything behind. And my husband's still like that. Well, there's still food there. And I keep teaching my son, your belly's full. It's okay with mommy. And he's learning that. He's learning to listen to his belly and to his body. Like, I don't need to eat that if I don't want to. But yeah, like these are the little subtle
So
things,
subtle.
yes, that we teach our kids, and it really creates that cycle of like I must listen to somebody else instead of me and my
Yes.
body.
Yes, exactly. That's the conditioning. That's what we're trying to break free from.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
amazing. All right, so anything else you want to share with the audience about, like, what else would you like to tell them about how amazing it is to follow the hints and your intuition, even in the middle of this entire matrix that we're living in, our community, our families.
Oh, I think that I just want to reiterate that you're here to live your life. You're not here to play by anyone else's rules, and that doesn't make you selfish. That doesn't make you a bad parent. You're here to live life, and when you are following your joy and that intuition and like that deep joy, not that like immediate, instant gratification, but like that deep joy, that deep inner calling, you get to live the most beautiful life, and you are so well supported and you are so well taken care of. And once you start doing that, even if you start in small ways, and please start in small ways, don't don't just blow everything up. But once you start living like that, you cannot go back because it is the most freeing feeling in the world, and you're just having so much fun.
Oh, I love that. Amazing, amazing, amazing. Um, I have one more question for you.
Yes.
Um, do you talk to people about like how they can change their lives, listen to their intuition? Are you doing anything on that terms over here or in Bali?
I I have a podcast that I talk about this stuff on. I talk about this on my social media. I don't have any sort of formal programs or coaching.
Mhm.
I am I've the number of seeds that people keep planting in me for the last few months, I'm like, I feel like it's going to happen. I just haven't yet. But yeah, social media and podcasts, so all free. And I love chatting with people in DMs and voice notes and stuff. So like reach out. I love having conversations about this, and you're never wasting my time because it just gives me conversations like this gives me more insight and clarity into what I am meant to be doing with my life. And so even like coming on podcasts, like I'm coming here because I am trusting that I'm being called here. And it's one of my favorite things to do is have conversations with people. So I'm trusting where it's leading me. And yeah, like my business and how I earn money is through high ticket affiliate marketing. So, if there's a way that if you want to start changing your life and you want a financial vehicle, please reach out. Um, but yeah, I'm more than happy to chat with you about any of this stuff. And it's all like under Breaking Free with Lindsay. My website, my podcast, my Instagram, my Facebook, all Breaking Free with Lindsay.
Amazing. I was just going to ask you, what are your handles? I'm going to put
Perfect.
all of your information also in the description part. So if you want to get in touch with Lindsay, just go look at the description and you can find all of her information there as well. So this has been an amazing, very nourishing, heartfelt conversation. Thank you so much for coming to my podcast and sharing your story here.
Oh, thank you so much for having me and asking really great questions that got me to reflect. I definitely got some insights myself, so I appreciate it.
Okay, I'll hope to see you soon.
Thanks.
Bye.